detective. Thrill me.
Thanks for joining us again for another episode. It's Jared and myself with another horror flick. We've decided to go with a bit of John Carpenter. 1980s The Fog. But before we get to that, let's just cover a little bit of ground here. We've got a bit of an up or down. Fast 9. I believe it's called the Fast Saga. I think that's the Fast Saga, F9. Mm-hmm. It's directed by Justin Lin, and it's got, Diesel, John Cena. It's a huge cast. What was your take on the trailer? Because you're a supporter of this series, let's be honest.
Longest trailer known to man.
3 minutes 40.
45 or something. Yeah, look, looks like more of the same. I'll go into a Fast and the Furious movie looking for some action. And let's be honest, if the action stuff is great and the other stuff isn't so good, I'll still be happy. If it's the other way around, probably less so. But yeah, my initial thoughts are obviously Han's back, which is fun. That's the second character in the series that's come back from the dead somehow. But John Cena and Diesel acting off each other. Trouble.
Imagine the point scoring on the mad point scoring board.
You were here a minute ago when I said, I hope they're not going to say something fucking stupid like it's his brother. And 5 seconds later, oh yeah, it's Dom's brother. Come on. But the car stuff looks like it's going to be suitably over the top. Looks like they might have even kicked things up a notch further than Hobbs and Shaw, which was a little bit out there, but we'll see. It's going to get to a point where it's just too much, and there's a few bits in this trailer where it looks like this could be the one, but I'll reserve judgment. You go in for a bit of a spectacle and a bit of thrills and excitement, and you can cop a little bit of the ridiculous if that's all there.
Yeah.
First glance, I don't think it's going to be up there with Fast 5 or something like that. But hey, I'll be there.
It's a difficult one for me to judge because obviously I haven't seen a large portion of the series. We talked about this earlier on today. It's got a lot to do with Diesel. He's not really an actor that I gravitate towards. No. That doesn't mean,
quite honestly, he's my least favourite part of the series, I think. But,
that makes it difficult because I don't really feel the need to rush out and watch these films. I'm not a car guy. I'm not a Diesel guy. I know they've changed, and I know that the later ones are far better, from what I've heard. Mm-hmm. I stopped at 3. I thought the pinnacle was Tokyo Drift.
There's a problem. But what are you doing? You're asking me who Han is. Han was in Tokyo Drift.
Well, I saw it once. Fuck yeah. I probably didn't know who the hell I was looking at. I can't remember Tokyo Drift barely at all. All I remember is Diesel turns up at the end, and it stars one of the blokes out of NCIS. He's now in NCIS.
Yeah, he's the little kid. Yeah. He used to be the little kid on American Gothic or whatever that show was called.
So I really don't remember Tokyo Drift much. In fact,
I think you need to watch.
I probably need to go and I need to watch the entire series. But on a straight up looking at the trailer, it looks like if you're a fan of this series, you are getting what you want. Mm-hmm. Like the series has gone further and further over the top, but there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
It's that people are flocking to these films and enjoying it. And if that's what's happening, then to me, you're getting what you pay for. For me, it's a down just strictly because I need to see the others.
I'm not so down on John Cena either, but he's got a pretty narrow kind of.
He's not Batista?
Look, I've already said it. He doesn't have the range of Batista, and I stand by that. Okay, I'm planting the flag right there.
Look, you know what? But I like Cena.
I like Cena
I like to see him in film. So
the heel turn, is he going to be up to it? The bad guy?
I think so. Yeah.
I think that's why Charlize Theron's back, because he's not up to
it. Yeah, look, Charlize, obviously she's got payments to make because this is not her scene.
I tell you, she got involved in the last one.
Yeah, look.
The dollars came rolling in.
Yeah, they said,
another? Yes, please. Because Helen Mirren's back too.
I know. And look, I think it's because these films are probably they're very highly budgeted. It seems like there's a real good chemistry between the group, and the actors seem to get along well.
Yeah.
And, that's why you probably pull a lot of people back in, because they have a great
that's
time.
what happens when you live your life a quarter mile at a time. Fuck, I could do without him ever saying that again.
He says it all the time.
I know.
But as far as I can tell, it's only a down for me because I need to see the rest of the series. And if once I've seen, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I say to myself, nah, I can't do it anymore.
No, look,
I'd be no
I
interest.
guarantee you watch, once you get to part 5, work your way through 6 and get to part 7, you'll be back in nearly at the altar of Diesel.
We have said this repeatedly that I need to see the rest of these films. So
You do.
I am
You
making
get on it.
a
That's homework.
100% promise that I will knock these fuckers over in the next couple of weeks.
Mate. Take it with
The next couple
you.
of weeks I'll knock them over. Let's just quickly touch on, we both bought Blair Witch,
Yep.
the PlayStation game.
Yep.
My take on it is, as atmospherically, it's got a lot going for it, especially when it's dark.
Yeah.
And you're waltzing around the middle of the forest with just a flashlight.
Yep.
And they use some really nice sound design work that is quite creepy.
Yep.
But it's clunky as hell as far as controlling everything goes.
Yeah.
There's a kind of like a fight system that doesn't really work at all.
No.
The dog is a really good touch, but because the dog acts as your warning system, your friend, you're seeking, you give it an item to sniff and it follows it's great for all that, but it's not fully fleshed, so it doesn't work very well all the time.
Yeah.
And fuck me, if I get lost in the woods again, I know they're trying to create that claustrophobic, that environment of being lost like you were in the movies, but keep that shit to a minimum.
Yeah.
These are games that work on sort of rails somewhat.
Yes. Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said. Like, the atmosphere and the sound is excellent. I know you were playing with the headphones in, which is recommended. I played it without them, but I love the fact that, like, when you're on the walkie-talkie or when the phone call comes in, the sound through the PlayStation speaker is such that you almost have to put the controller up to your ear like a phone.
Yeah.
That stuff all works really, really well. And as you said, the atmosphere and everything's excellent. Yeah, I said it to you. There's an element of being lost in the woods that you have to kind of get that Blair Witch feel. But there's times when you just need to know where to go next, basically.
Yeah.
There's times where it's like you've got what's happened and you're just like, okay, let's move on. Like, the dog, I love the idea, but it just needed more work. Like, the amount of times I've wandered around and the dog's done things like he's leading you, but he stops and waits for you at points, and I'll be right on his hammer, and then he stops and turns and walks back past me, and then starts going again, but I've turned around to follow him where he's going. And the times when it's fighting, I mean, shit, you're just spinning basically, and you fucking lose track of him, and
and you need to know where the dog is.
The dog
to know
is
how
super
to fight.
important for that. Part of that was just a bit of a learning curve, but even having sort of gotten that, I'm still kind of like, shit.
Well, it's still difficult.
Well, it's not so much. Yeah, it's difficult, but it just feels off. Like, it's not very smooth when you're trying to fucking turn around. As you said, that combat system when you're trying to use the torch and turn around and do that sort of stuff, it just feels off.
And in a way,
a big issue. And like I said, when we were talking about getting lost, I mean, I found a videotape, right? I found a videotape where there's a really cool system where they work the videotapes in, which is I do really like that part of it.
Yeah.
So I found a videotape, and then the save point didn't save where I'd got the videotape. I had to get to another point, then I had to turn the game off. It didn't save that I'd gotten this videotape, so I had to go back. And fuck me, if I could find the thing, I couldn't find it again. Like, I just had no idea where to go get back to find it. And I thought I was pretty well I knew where I was. I obviously I had no fucking idea. And at the same time, I was walking through one of those brush areas where Bullet's barking.
Bullet, where are you?
Bullet's barking, and you can see the arrow pointing to him. So I race towards the arrow. He barks again. The arrow's behind me. I'm fucking turning in circles, going, where the fuck is Bullet? But overall, like, it's a bit of fun.
Yeah, it's good. It's decent fun, but it's nothing.
Good,
it's nothing groundbreaking.
No.
I feel like you said it would work as a virtual reality game.
Yeah, I kept looking at it, and I'm just thinking that seems like it would have been perfect, especially with the move controller as the torch. And yeah, I don't know.
And that would have sorted out some of the fight mechanics if you're using your own.
I think so. I mean, it would have meant it would have had to be less kind of. It would have had to be almost more on rails, so you could kind of just be using that field of view in front of you.
Yeah.
But it's worked. Like, I think there's parts in there. The kids have got me playing the Five Nights at Freddy VR one, and there's torches involved in that, and it works a treat.
Stuff jumps out at you.
Yeah.
I feel it could have worked much better in that respect. All right, let's take a break. And here's the trailer for 1980's The Fog.
Something is moving in the fog.
Who's there?
Something not quite human.
Who is that?
In Halloween, John Carpenter created a night of absolute fear. Now, he has conjured an evil so intense, not even the dawn can drive it away. The Fog, a study in unrelenting terror. Rated R.
The Fog from 1980, directed by John Carpenter, who gave us Halloween and They Live, produced by Deborah Hill. She produced pretty much the majority of Carpenter's early catalogue, I think, but as well as such other gems as Clue and Adventures in Babysitting. I believe that's on Disney Plus.
Right.
Yeah.
You going to go and check it out?
Yeah, well, look, shit. I've got Disney Plus. I might as well fucking watch something. It's written by Carpenter and Deborah Hill as well. It stars Adrian Barbeau as Stevie Wayne, Jamie Lee Curtis as Elizabeth Solly, Janet Leigh as Kathy Williams, and Tom Atkins as Nick Castle. The budget was $1 million and the box office was $21 million. So, nice little earner. It's stated that in the trivia that Kurt Russell was offered a role. Well, he was in pretty deep with Carpenter at that stage, so that doesn't surprise me. All right, Jared, your thoughts. The Fog.
Right. It's not one of Carpenter's absolute best, but for some reason it just holds a little special place for me. I'm very fond of it. It's the things that I think are really good are the kind of the ghost story sort of tone. How they started off with the campfire ghost story, and then the way that the fog looks and the crewmen sort of look silhouetted, and that stuff all works a treat. Like, visually it's excellent. Carpenter sort of takes his time with it. You don't really get to know any characters all that well, which is a bit weird.
Yeah.
But it seems
Stevie
to be
Wayne a little bit.
Yeah, Stevie Wayne a little bit, but they all kind of just seem to be in the fog trying to get out of it. There's not really any sort of character arcs or anything.
Yeah.
But when all's said and done, it gets about a 3.5 for me. I love the ghost story vibe to it. I love that the way that he shot all that. And so it's one of those ones in my mind where I'm like, I overlook some of the flaws because I really dig that other stuff so much.
Yeah.
So yeah, 3.5 for me.
I would agree. It's at times really moody and atmospheric, and it gets a heap of mileage out of the locales and some really strong visuals. Carpenter's visuals are quite good here. Where it's let down for me is there's some very poor jump scares, which is quite surprising for Carpenter. His first couple of films, well, certainly Halloween, had something quite a couple of jump scares that worked really well. In this case, they don't work at all. It feels like they kind of didn't need them. It's kind of cheap scares that this movie didn't really need. This movie is an atmospheric horror film. So the jump scares are a mistake. It's also a little clunky about explanations around the why the ghosts are back.
Yeah, some of it is super strong, and other
Yeah.
parts are just a bit kind of.
It doesn't quite make sense until you've read Wikipedia. Do you know what I mean? Like it all comes together. But when you're actually watching the film,
Well,
we were asking each other questions all through it.
But we pieced it together in the film. We were piecing it together in the film as it went along. But then you asked a couple of questions, and I asked a couple of questions where we were both kind of like, yeah, don't know about
that really works.
So it's sort of parts of that were a little bit played a bit fast and loose with what they could do, and
some of it felt a little bit unnecessary. And you're right, character development is really at a minimum here. I mean, you don't get to know anyone. Nobody's. I mean, whose movie is it really? It doesn't kind of have a hero, you know. Tom Atkins, maybe. Jamie Lee Curtis is there in the.
Seems more like Tom Atkins. Jamie Lee really is sidelined for a lot of the time, which is.
We don't see Janet Leigh until 30 minutes in. You know, and she's a one of the top billed sort of cast members, so it's a bit strange in the way it's set up there.
It is a little.
It's a solid addition to Carpenter's canon.
Yeah,
like, there's
totally.
certainly nothing wrong with it. I feel it has a ton of room to move for a remake. I think it would be
just
really,
not the remake.
No, not the one they did. Not the one they did.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see someone. Let's say some like director of like The Witch or something like that who can bring a moody atmospheric style.
He just did one about the lighthouse, didn't he? So
yeah, that type of thing. Someone like that could really do some justice to it, and do something good with it. I give it 3. Solid
interesting.
3. All right, the likes, atmosphere all the way. This is really, really atmospheric stuff.
Yeah, especially at night. It's all got that kind of blue
tinge to it,
and the way that the fog moves, and
there's kind of a sense of dread throughout. Like it's evoked very early on when we have the time that springs to that certain time, and then everything starts going a little bit haywire in town. Kind of just brings this little bit of dread on, even though we haven't got to the fog and we haven't got to the crux of what's happening. Just sort of setting the scene.
It's very eerie and quiet, and
and Carpenter uses a heap of the classic kind of Carpenter moves that he used in Halloween, like long, slow tracking shots where, you know, he really doesn't move very far. He just kind of follows around. You know, some of that sort of stuff that he used is really, really well done here. It's quite well directed. But I think pacing-wise, it's not too quick. He doesn't try and rush anything. He just kind of slowly rolls out the story.
Yes.
And I think you need that here. You know, you need to build tension because you're not relying on shit leaping out at you.
Yeah.
And it's that lets him down, trying to go in that direction.
It does a little bit.
The location. I'm going to say it's Tugworthy.
You absolutely loved it. It's good. It's
the small windswept coastal town.
Yeah, yep.
Brilliant.
And it does kind of evoke this sort of isolation.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's just natural for that kind of place with the lighthouse. That is sort of a remote. That's a landmark of a remote place, really. Yeah.
And I think it works well with the ominous atmosphere. Like, you couldn't put this in a big city setup. You couldn't do something of that nature. You have to have a small, isolated town, little community place that, you know, suddenly the fog rolls in and then all hell breaks loose. And it works because of that.
Yep.
And the locations are really, really nice.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly where it was shot in.
Well, they come up nicely in daytime, and they also do really well with it in the nighttime shots as well.
Yeah.
When the fog is coming in, like, it looks equally impressive.
Yep.
In both, really.
I like the opening. I actually like the campfire. Start.
It's a great way to
just
bring it
kind of teasing out some of what went on.
Yeah.
And the idea of the clipper ship that crashed and
classic
nearby.
little campfire ghost story. It's
setting up the 100-year anniversary.
Yeah, it's a little bit like Friday the 13th, where you're filling in some of the Friday the 13th movies that use that kind of the campfire stuff to start it off. Like, it's it fills in some little details for us in a neat little way.
Yeah, it fills in it basically kicks the story off, but doesn't give us everything.
Yep.
Because we get to it.
And
as
you
we
get
go along.
you get your sugar-free Donald Pleasance telling us
That
the
is
story.
definitely a Donald Pleasance role, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is definitely Donald Pleasance. It's just a cut rate
Yeah.
version. Really strong opening again. What we talked about before, that first few minutes sets the tone. It's quiet. There's no dialogue.
Goes through a bunch of locations
Yeah,
too.
gives us a little bit of an understanding of, okay, here's the grocery store, here's the radio station, here's the weather meteorology place or whatever.
Charles Cyphers pestering someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does a good job of at least giving us an understanding of the town and how it might be sort of set out.
Yeah. It's very kind of measured, very, as you said, uses those Carpenter touches where he lingers on particular things and uses the kind of darkness and the shadows to his advantage to kind of build that atmosphere.
I think it's a good move to have Stevie Wayne almost act like our conscience, or sort of act as the audience's.
She sort of narrates.
Yeah, she sort of narrates the story.
She's kind of bringing the characters together, bringing their information together. It works really well to bring together this feeling of a small little isolated community too, because you can tell it's a small little town. She's operating the lighthouse and she's the radio station.
Yeah,
everyone's listening to it as well. So it's sort of
even the guys out on the ships and it's sort of. It works well to just give you the sense of community, and I also dig that the radio station's in the lighthouse. As I told you,
you love a lighthouse.
Well, as I told you, I'd like to retire and live in a lighthouse. But as you said, do you need to operate it? Those questions, I have to ask those questions before I do it.
I've also heard that you get lots of visitors coming to take photographs and stuff. So you'd be out on the top of.
Get the fuck off my land! I can be right on time. I'll grow a beard. I'll be the town rummy, wandering back to my lighthouse with my brown paper sack.
Yeah, basically it'll be the bloke on the campfire on the beach, dressed up like a captain, talking about yes, we don't go near the lighthouse. An old rummy there will abuse you until you fucking fall over dead from the stench of his breath.
Yes, people say it's haunted, but they realise no, he's just a drunken asshole. I really like the reveal of the clipper ship out in the ocean. They just come across it shrouded in fog, and then suddenly the ship is taken over by the ghostly guys.
And the way that all works is great. How they just kind of show up in the fog. You don't see them fucking leaping off the clipper or anything like that. You just see the fog come in and then they're just standing there.
Yeah.
That stuff, it works a treat.
Yes.
As I said, I enjoyed that few minutes on what I labelled as the SS scumbag while they were sorry, bad story out there,
burping and farting and scratching their nuts.
Lusting over bloody Stevie Wayne.
Oh, I'd like to meet her, he says at one point, doesn't he?
That stuff was all really good.
Yeah. And that every time those the guys come out of the fog, that is always really well done. Like he always keeps it in silhouette. You never quite get a full look at them.
Yeah, all the way through.
Yeah,
it's pretty consistent through the whole movie that the fog and the fog rolling and moving through the town and the guys in the fog always look pretty great.
Yeah, he does a really good job with that. To keep bringing them back, but never quite showing us.
I think that's what I always remember. Like you look at the cover, and that's what it is. Like the silhouette and the fog with the eyes, and every time I kind of forget details about this movie, I never really forget that.
Yes, and I think that's what makes this movie. Carpenter never lets us down on any of that.
No,
like he always does a really good job with that throughout the film. So that's one of the bigger sort of selling points for me. I really actually, strangely enough, because it was a weird piece, but I liked it, the fact that Stevie had the half of the sign from the ship, and it suddenly just starts leaking water out, and it kind of wets the radio, and then suddenly you hear this ghostly voice saying something. I thought that was really cool. It was another way of sort of bringing a slightly different touch to this whole ghost feeling.
That was really the only time they branched out with something a little different in terms of...
But it was interesting because it was something that we hadn't yet seen from any of this.
I liked it. I also liked Tom Atkins' story of encountering the ship.
Yes.
Not saying that he'd kind of been in the fog or anything like that, but saying that they came across a ship that...
looked like it had been there for forever, and it was all rusted. And
well, yeah, when he goes over the details, it's clear that this ship had encountered the what was it called? I've forgotten the name of the ship already.
I can't remember.
But yeah, he encountered the ship and the ghosts, and he's
in the middle of dinner and all this sort of stuff. Like I said, there was food on the table.
Yeah,
and there was a cup rusted to the table and all this sort of stuff. I like that as well. It just kind of set a little bit of a scene. It was almost like another ghost story.
Yeah, it's just adding to it. It's just adding these extra little pieces to it.
My favourite piece in the film from a suspense sort of aspect was the clearly dead Dick Baxter getting back up off the morgue table, and the way that's shot. You kind of see his hand come out from underneath the sheet.
Yep.
And then he grabs a pen, I think, and then you see from the back of a low shot at the bottom of the gurney, and his feet sort of come off and slowly come down, and you can see Jamie Lee just in front of him. Like, that was really cool stuff. And when you finally kind of, they never show his face in detail. They just sort of show Jamie Lee, and then you can just see him kind of wandering towards her. In the background. Really cool, really tense.
That was very cool. Although I still query what happened. This is one of those questions because nobody else got up. I don't know what happened, but I agree. That was a really...
Because he had no eyes. He had his eyes gouged out and his head 3/4 cut off.
What was going on?
He was just he was a wreck. So I'm not quite sure.
He was just a bloody slab of meat.
Yeah, white, and he just kind of collapsed.
Yeah,
that was it.
He collapsed. But I agree. It was very, very well shot.
Yeah, it was visually really stunning, but doesn't really stand up to the test of how does it tie back to what's going on?
Yeah, which we'll probably get a bit more to in the dislikes a little bit, but yes.
I actually like the death of Charles Cyphers.
Yeah, that was actually next on my list.
The fog sort of rolls in, coats the whole area, the knocking at the door.
Yeah, and you sort of know where it's going, and this is the only jump scare that really works.
He opens the door and he stands there.
Just fucking flies in and
grabs him. And I thought that was another one of those cool visual pieces.
Yeah, and it was like they'd done it previously where there's nothing there, and then when you see one and the shot changes, there's like 2 or 3 around him.
I like that.
I like that a lot.
And it's similar to when Mrs. Whatever her name is, Cobritz dies. That's a cool scene too. Same thing. She opens the door, she gets grabbed, pulled out, and as she gets pulled into the fog, you just see 2 other people sort of peel off into it.
I like
standing next to the door.
You see that almost through the eyes of the kid. Yeah. Like, you see the shot of the door and her just get yanked into the fog, basically. Yeah. And as you said, you see the kind of other silhouettes. But yeah, I really like that you saw that through his eyes.
And that whole sequence was cool.
Inside the house, and she got sort of ripped out into the fog.
That whole sequence was cool because then they come in, they knock on the door, and they smash the door open with the little hook.
Yep.
And Tommy Atkins has to get there in true heroic Atkins fashion and smash the window and take the kid out. Like, all of that was really good. Again, the suspense, the build-up. Carpenter never rushes his stuff.
No.
He never rushes for a payoff.
No.
You know, he kind of keeps it, and I feel that's the reason why the tension builds in these films.
Yeah. And why this one, even being a little bit underdone in some aspects, is still a very enjoyable kind of... It's still a very enjoyable watch and something that you go back to a bunch of times, you know?
And my final like is the finale. I think the finale for the last probably 10 minutes or so, when the fog rolls in, blankets the whole town, and they just suddenly start coming out. Yeah, they come out and everywhere. It works. All of it pretty much works.
Forcing it to the church seems a bit convenient, but then when it all comes together and everything's unearthed,
there's a reason why.
It's like, oh, well, yeah, that makes total sense because the fog is, obviously it's not just the fog has blanketed the town. It's the fog had a path that it was.
It's basically sort of pushed everyone to it.
Yeah.
And most of that works really well from a visual point, with Stevie on the roof of the lighthouse and there's the bloke climbing the stairs, you know.
Yep.
All of it's really, really strong.
Particularly the shots in the church of where they actually come in.
Yeah, and they're all standing there amongst the pews.
The shot just comes in of them, you know, the dimly lit sort of other end of the church, and then Blake starts coming down the middle of the aisle. Like, that stuff.
He's got the red eyes.
Yeah, I love it.
Works a treat.
Love it. But, I mean, that is probably the strongest part of the movie for mine, is all the historical aspect where they're reading from the journal and uncovering what's happening and tying that into modern day with the Malone character in the church.
Yeah.
And that is probably, for me, the strongest aspect of it all up. And that's what Tom Atkins' story adds to. Like, yeah, I love that. Love that part of it. I also, I know you were a bit down on parts of it, but the second half especially, I felt the score was pretty strong. It's not one of Carpenter's best, again, much like the rest of the picture, but he does a similar thing to Halloween 3 with that pulsing stuff. It's not as sort of panicked. It's not as urgent as the Halloween 3 one. It was kind of like it was just pumping, whereas this one's a bit more kind of...
I would agree. As the finale rolls in, the music steps up a gear, and it works well. This score's more in keeping with The Thing, but not as sort of iconic, I guess, as The Thing one. I really like the one from The Thing.
Which is one of the ones that he didn't do, right? That was... was that
Marco?
Yeah.
It feels a bit like that.
Yeah, it does.
It has that kind of feel, that slow, pulsing kind of thing. And The Thing takes similar sort of musical beats, but The Thing, I feel, is a much better score. But, yeah, look, this isn't the worst. It unfortunately fell into the dislikes because he's had so many better ones. Well, he's had a number of better ones. He
has had better ones.
So I just feel that it's not quite there. You got any other likes?
No, that was it.
Well, straddling quickly into dislikes, I just don't feel the score works as well as he has had in the past.
Yeah, and it's probably not as... I would probably agree that it's probably not as consistent overall.
Yeah. And it's certainly not an iconic one.
He still shows a really good sense of when to use it and when not to.
Yes.
I think that's one of his strengths too. He never overplays his hand with the music.
No, of course not. There's a really out of place zoom in the campfire scene. It's a sort of a medium shot of the guy telling the story and the campfire there, and suddenly it just kind of randomly zooms quickly in onto his face, and it's woefully out of place. It feels like it. Like, you're talking about you're trying to build atmosphere.
Well, I hesitated on this because we looked a little bit. I looked at it and I said, I don't think that's...
You thought it was a glitch.
I thought it was a glitch with the disc or something, but we did a little bit of... Well, let's be honest. We Googled for 3 minutes, and that's our research here at the Thrill Me podcast.
So
look, we can't afford into it. We're going to do this. We're going to do this shit ourselves, okay? But no, we got onto a couple of forums and things like that, and people were saying that this has been present through a handful of releases, DVD, through Blu-ray, like right back to the early 2000s.
I don't know what it is or where it came from. I don't know whether it's a directorial flourish or what.
I'm giving Carpenter a pass because it just doesn't look like there's no reason for it to be there, and there's nothing like that
anywhere else in the picture,
including in that scene. So I'm kind of giving him a pass, but it still earns a place in the dislikes because you can cut that shit out.
Just
pause it for a second and it'll be less noticeable.
Yeah, there was no need to keep it. Just cut it slightly, just cut that bit, and
we can work around it.
It was woefully out of place because it felt like some sort of action movie or something.
Yeah, because everything's like static. Everything in that scene is pretty static. You know, it's a long shot of him, and then we go to the shot of the kids, and then it's a close up of him. And when you see it, you're just like, "Whoa, shit! What's going on here?" So,
if we do need to hire an intern, we should hire Kramer's intern, Darren. The bloke mentioned chicken wire.
Yeah. I'm sure we can get some chicken wire in here.
Tom Atkins. without a mustache.
Just no. No.
Unacceptable. He looks like a Mexican hairless.
That's what I said. It's like Jason without his mask or Freddy without his glove. Like
Atkins without his nose.
Son's mustache is not. I don't like it. Can we digitally put it back in?
Yeah, I reckon the next restoration should include a fake mo.
Yeah. And while you're at it, throw a can of beer in his hand and we can just pretend it's...
And drop one extra button on his shirt.
We can just pretend it's Dan Chalice just making his way to...
Chalice is making his way to Halloween Town. Taking a detour through
Antonio Bay.
Also, look, I'm not knocking the great man, but without the mo, I don't see him betting Jamie Lee Curtis.
Without the mo, Jamie says no. That's
the motto. Yeah, it's a hard pass for Jamie without the mustache. I tell you what, though, if he mows back up...
Oh, I don't even make it out of the truck. She can't help herself. It just, it doesn't hold up. It doesn't hold up.
Do you think he would have said to her, what happens if I grow a mo in the next day or so? Yeah, all right, maybe.
Yeah, right. I can see it.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Atkins, he doesn't feel manly enough.
Too much negative space on his head. The composition of his face is all wrong.
Love the man. Love him.
Yeah, so do I.
I do. I love the bloke.
But I think even he wised up.
Yeah.
Back.
I think even like today, even as of today, the man wears a salt and pepper.
Yep.
Grey mo.
Yep. Good choice.
Stick with it, Tom.
Yep.
Stick with it. There are a number of jump scares that do not work. It's a real surprise because Carpenter was very proficient at this type of stuff.
Yeah.
You know, but there's one where Father Malone basically gets catapulted. He fucking catapults out of the dark. It looks like he was on like a spring-loaded chair or something.
He launches right in there. He's very enthusiastic about. People are calling out for him and he doesn't seem too enthusiastic, but as soon as someone makes it near the shadow, hey!
Do you think he was pissed? And then he's just fallen out of the shadows?
Of course. Given the rest of the film, I would say that's a firmly in the positive on that one.
Yeah, there's that one. There's the one where the body falls out of behind Jamie Lee in the boat.
Yeah.
That he tries to do a little bit of misdirection. The stuff falls out of a locker in front of her.
Yeah.
And then she leans forward, and this guy falls out behind her.
Yeah.
But it seems ill-timed and doesn't really work.
And it's in a sort of in a long shot to get them all in there.
Yeah.
And it looks, you can't even really, you just kind of see him fucking slump over the top, and that's it. Like, yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of that one.
And I just felt personally that this film didn't need this stuff.
No.
It was about atmosphere. It was about building suspense and tension and slowly getting towards what was going to happen.
The Charles Cyphers part of it was spot on.
That's perfect.
Like it played it beautifully. This one, I don't know. Did you even need the body falling out, or did you just need him going up above deck or whatever and finding it or something? Yeah. Like, I feel like that would have fit. Because we've already seen what sort of happens, so we could kind of gather ourselves. We already knew when that happens, we know sort of what's happened to him. So it just seemed like a cheap way to ring a little extra scare in there. And
finding him dead, slumped in a really sort of normal position or something like that would have added a little more to the creepiness of the whole thing.
Yeah, I think so.
So I didn't specifically that one in particular, but there were several other jump scares that didn't work. It felt like he was a little bit off on those things. I only had one other dislike, and it was that after getting through all the details about what happened, that there's a mention of leprosy, and I just couldn't really work out, and maybe it was just because it was a little clunky trying to understand it once you were piecing it together. Was there a real necessity for the leprosy angle, which does come up? It kind of felt like really
like it.
Like I thought initially maybe it was because they looked all kind of weathered and the skin was falling off, and that was kind of the leprosy.
Yeah. But they've been underwater for
But
100
yeah, that was
years.
it. They mentioned that they've been underwater for ages. I was like, oh, well, that's what that is.
Yeah, I didn't see the necessity for it. I mean, I was thinking to myself, is it that they were paying gold because
To get into the colony
to
or
get in
whatever?
there because the people didn't want the leprosy, the leper colony, so they were saying we'll pay the gold or whatever, and then they decided to kill them and take the gold anyway. Because either way, it still works all right.
Yeah.
You've offered your place to Blake and his group, and you double cross them anyway. You light the fire on the beach and they run him into the rocks, and you take the gold. Like, either way, you look like heartless bastards. So, yeah, I don't know. I
Did you run him into the reef? Well, I guess that's what it was. You ran him into the reef because you didn't want a leper colony.
that was it. But I mean,
But if you
can
took
go
that
the
out, if you
greed
took that
angle
out and you
just
went
say,
with greed, yeah, we knew he had gold
we
on
knew he had
board.
gold, and we ran him into
We
the beach.
decided
Like,
to kill him,
it sort of comes down to that anyway.
and it still brings in the revenge kind of angle of the 100-year.
Yeah, so it's not like hugely out of place, but it probably could have done without it.
Yeah, I just feel maybe it was in there for, flair.
It seemed like it was going to be very important to what was going on.
Yeah, because it's mentioned quite early. Not quite early, but about a half hour in, 35 minutes in.
Yeah, but
He
it
reads from the book.
doesn't actually say in the, well, if I remember correctly, it doesn't actually say when he's reading the book that's why they did it. It just says they ran him into the beach and took the gold.
Well, but she basically says, I was not happy with the leper colony being not too far away.
Yeah.
But that doesn't really explain it well enough. And to me, you could have taken lepers out entirely. And as I said, you go with the greed angle, which essentially that's what it was.
Yeah.
They turned up for their gold
And
that you took from them.
Well,
And I feel
they do take revenge even after the gold, though.
Yeah, but that's because of
kind of adds to
the actual father
Is his
one of the
grandson.
Yeah, so that I understand that, and that works. It's just also for me personally, it just took a little bit of mystery. Like, I love the fact that we didn't know what they drowned and that was it. It just added this kind of like extra piece that just took a little bit of the mystery away for me. And as we've sort of discussed, if they'd have cut it, it wouldn't have mattered. It didn't impact on anything.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key
I
thing
feel
when you're looking
if
at those
it was in
things.
there, maybe they should have played it like that the priest was kind of an unwilling participant in it at all. I don't know.
Was it trying to establish a history in Antonio Bay of there'd been a leper colony close by or whatever? Was it trying to perhaps create a little bit of that?
Well, I don't think. I mean,
because it never went on about the colony ever again.
Well, that becomes
around.
that's not impacted either, because I feel like what it seems like is that the riches from the gold allowed them to establish a larger community.
Yes.
So
they kind of got what they wanted, and these guys were back for it.
yeah,
You ripped us off, you stole our money, you killed us all,
yeah.
and we want payback. That is
Basically.
enough.
I think
my
it's
book.
enough, probably.
Yeah.
The
And-
other part, I guess it fits with the time, I suppose, like the timing of when he's saying that all this happened.
Yeah, the
and-
1880s, whatever, Yeah, true. Look, it just didn't work for me. It felt like a little bit of an extra piece that was unnecessary, unless you were going to flesh it out a bit further.
Yeah. My last dislike kind of builds on that, is that when you find out what's going on, still doesn't cover whether you're only in their line of fire if you've got the gold or you had an ancestor that was a part of it, because they seem to be kind of indiscriminate.
Yeah, well, they said
they're doing,
they need
and then-
6 souls to replace them. Anybody will do, basically, it would seem.
Well, they get Malone, obviously.
They get
with the
Malone, they
stinger
get
at the end.
3 guys on the boat,
Yeah,
and they get Mrs.
yeah, the old bird.
Whatever her name is,
And you get
Cobras.
Charles Cyphers.
And you get Charles Cyphers. There's your 6. But none of them, they never mention that any of them other than Malone, is connected to the forefathers.
Well, I thought they were going for the kid because he found something from the ship. But then, the fishermen out at sea are just in their path. So maybe, I don't know, probably just maybe clarify that it didn't matter which 6 souls you got.
Yeah.
Because Malone is, they're going to take me because I'm his, I need to pay for this, basically.
Yeah.
But no one else seems to be tied to that. I mean, to me, it works fine that if you're in the fog, you're in a bit of strife.
Well, yeah, it's indiscriminate, but yeah, just a little bit of clarification. Well, who gives a shit? They could have gone with the other one. Just anyone in our path is going to die until we get what we're after.
Yeah.
And what we're after is the gold.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was actually adding that to the likes. I loved that the gold was in the cross.
Cross, yeah, that was cool.
That was a nice little touch.
I didn't have any other dislike.
No.
Apart for I guess we touched on it, but there is no character development.
Not really.
Nobody gets more than a scene or two.
Yeah.
To provide any real depth about who they are. Stevie Wayne's the one that we probably know the most, but even her, she spends most of her time.
What we know.
The voice of Antonio Bay, and a small section about her and her son.
Fending off Charles Cypher's pest.
Desperately fending off Charles Cypher.
He's just about leaping down
ducking
the phone.
and weaving and saying, no, I've got a meeting that day. And, look, I've got to get my beauty sleep. Yeah. But nobody really has anything, as you say, there was no arc to their character. They didn't start somewhere and end somewhere else. Or Jamie Lee's just basically wandering, hitchhiking through town.
Yeah. Pretty much.
And then we never really get a sense of... I think she was going to Vancouver. That was the only piece of information I remember hearing.
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty big negative.
Probably.
It's depending on what you're going for, I guess. You haven't got anything else?
No, that was everything I had.
All right. That was The Fog. You can find us on iTunes, Spotify and Podomatic. Send us an email at thrillme@iinet.net.au. We're on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia and at Podomatic at thrillme.podomatic.com. We're also on Instagram at thrillmepodcastau. We hope to be back next episode with the entire group. Fingers crossed. I believe we're looking at the Kill Bill films as a next pair.
Yep.
But until then, take it easy and we'll catch up with everyone later. Cheers.
Find the podcast at Podomatic or on iTunes. Don't forget to rate and review. Like us on Facebook at Thrill Me Podcast Australia or contact us at thrillme, all one word, all lowercase, at iinet.net.au.